It has been 17 days now since 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed by Ferguson, Missouri police officer Darren Wilson. While we still don't know what Officer Wilson says happened in that shooting, we are learning more about Officer Wilson. In 2009, he began his career in law enforcement in Jennings, Missouri, on the Jennings Police Department. The job lasted only 2 years because, as the Washington Post reports, the Jennings Police Department was, quote, a police department so troubled and with so much tension between white officers and black residents that the city council finally decided to disband it. New officers were brought in to create a credible department from scratch. Darren Wilson then moved on to the Ferguson Police Department, which has now become the most troubled police department in Missouri. On Friday, St. Louis County Police had to suspend one of its officers when this online video emerged.
I don't care whether you're a Christian or not. I personally believe in Jesus Christ as my Lord Savior, but I'm also a killer. I've killed a lot. And if I need to, I'll kill a whole bunch more. If you don't want to get killed, don't show up in front of me. It's that simple.
That was Officer Dan Page, who we saw doing crowd control earlier last week in Ferguson. Officer Dan Page's speech lasted over an hour and included this reference to President Obama.
Now this here is Kenya. I had my own airplane. I had me a Learjet. I said, I want to go find where that illegal alien is claiming to be my president, my undocumented president lives at. So I flew to Africa, and right there, and I went to our undocumented president's home. He was born in Kenya.
Joining me now is Liz Brown, a criminal defense attorney and a columnist for the St. Louis American newspaper, and Jim Cavanaugh, an MSNBC law enforcement analyst and retired ATF special agent in charge. Liz Brown, first of all, to Mr. Page there, who has been suspended, how surprised were you or shocked? How would you describe your feelings about discovering that this kind of thinking was in one of your local police departments?
Confirmation. I really believe when I hear those words coming out of his mouth, it's the same energy, it's the same thought process, it's the same worldview that I believe drove Darren Wilson to feel comfortable enough that he could shoot a child, leave a child on the ground for 4 hours, and then know that he was going to be covered by the county police department. It's confirmation, Lawrence.
And Jim Cavanaugh, Officer Page is in the police department that Ferguson immediately handed over their investigation to, and that video has been online since April. Nobody thought until Friday there was anything wrong, and the officer involved didn't think there was anything wrong with having that video online until Friday, since April.
It's outrageous, Lawrence, really. And not only that, not only his comments are outrageous, but he's speaking to a group called the Oath Keepers, which is a group that's involved in crackpot conspiracy theories against the government. They're the group that, one of the main groups at the Bundy Ranch. They've gone to towns in the West to try to, fight civil authority. They claim constitutional backing by their name, Oath Keepers, but they're involved in a lot of crackpot conspiracies and right-wing crazy conspiracy theories. And to have this guy, even if he was talking to the Rotary Club, it would be outrageous, but he's talking to this group. So I think the county police really have to take some actions here and do some searching. They can't have people like this, a 35-year police veteran. This is the guy also that pushed the CNN anchor, Don Lemon, out there. And Don's one of the nicest guys you'll ever talk to, and I've talked to him a few times. So I think it's outrageous, really.
Liz Brown, the Michael Brown's family asked for peace and calm today in Ferguson. They seem to have gotten that. There's absolutely nothing going on right now on the streets. But tell us how what turned out to be this giant event of the funeral was received in that area today.
I think that people, they came to some peace with it. I think that people were inspired by it. But I also heard talk on the street about how they didn't want the world to interpret that that pushing the pause button with the funeral meant that this issue was going to go away, that people were no longer going to be engaged in this action, that our issues have somehow been resolved. People are concerned about that in the rush to healing, that we are overlooking the fact that nothing has been addressed, nothing has been fixed. We can't heal unless we take the knife out and allow the wound to heal. And from the perspective of many people, the knife is still in. We don't have an indictment. We have an indictment that's going to be drug out over a number of days. We have a grand jury that's only going to be given the information by a prosecutor that is at best not going to be able to issue or work on this case or deliver the evidence on this case because he's compromised. So people have mixed feelings. They are happy for the family that Michael Brown has been put to rest, but there's so much more ahead. There's so much more to do, and no one wants the steam to go out of this movement.
Jim Kavanaugh, I want to read to you from the deadly force rule that the St. Louis County Police have. I believe it's the same one the Ferguson Police have, where they say officers are authorized to use deadly force to protect themselves or others from imminent threat of death or serious physical injury. That's the standard rule that you read all over the country. And what I've been looking for in the evidence since this story emerged is, tell me what the threat of death or serious injury was to the police officer firing the weapon, according to the accounts where Michael Brown is running away from him, or any one of the accounts, other than the close quarter contact they seem to have had at the car, which I think is not clear what was going on there. But after that, where most of the bullets were fired, I can't see what in this evidence fits within the deadly force rule.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a bifurcated incident. In the incident in the car, where the officer grabs Michael Brown's neck, there's pushing, shoving, maybe there's punching, the officer's injured in the face, there's, he might have broke leather, and Michael Brown went for the gun. And if there's a struggle for an officer's gun, that's a struggle for your life. So that first shot, and, it could have been the shot in Michael Brown's forearm because the officer warned him, I'll shoot, I'll shoot, I'll shoot. And when things happen like that, you might put your arm up. So he could have had that first shot. So an argument could be made that maybe that is justified use of deadly force, fighting over the gun. But every shot after that, running away, turning to surrender, those shots cannot be justified use of force. You can't shoot a person running away because he punched you. You can't shoot a person running away because he was involved in a strong-arm robbery. By the nature of that crime, there's not a weapon involved. So at the worst, you have a serial bully. He punched a policeman, he punched someone at the store, and you can't shoot him for that. That's a lot different than if you had an active mass shooter, say at Newtown, running away from the officer who'd killed 10, 20 people, and now you got to stop him. That's a whole different use of force. So you can't shoot a guy in the back running away, even if he punched everybody in town. You just can't. You can't use deadly force that way.
And Liz Brown, here we are 17 days after this event, and the police still have not offered any account, any story to describe what this police officer actually did after he got out of his car, which is when most of the bullets were fired. It is when we now know Michael Brown was shot and hit with the bullets that killed him. There's absolutely no account from the police about that, and it's oddly, there's an odd echo to that from the day that this happened, where Michael Brown's body was left on the street for 4.5 hours, an unprecedented period of time in a situation like that, and we now are left with this unprecedented lack of information from the police about what happened there.
But you know what happens in this absence of information on the part of Darren Wilson? Darren Wilson and his defense attorney have the opportunity to see and to hear and to examine and to dissect everything that everybody else says, all the other evidence that's out there. So when Darren Wilson, if he chooses, and I believe that he will, when he goes into that grand jury to testify, he will have, at his best and call, he will have all of the statements that other people have made. So when he makes his statement will fit those other statements. He'll be able to make a statement that will be uncontradicted. And like you said, Lawrence, this is unprecedented. I have never seen anything like this, that there has been this kind of silence on the part of the defendant and the evidence for someone to be charged. It's amazing.
Liz Brown and Jim Kavanaugh, thank you both for joining me tonight.